We're diving deep into a developing story that has raised serious concern across Eastern Europe and NATO's forward flank. It's October 2025, and Belarus has placed its entire military on high alert following the massive Zapad-2025 exercises with Russia. What started as a routine joint drill has now turned into a tense standoff, with NATO forces in Poland, Lithuania and Latvia watching every move coming from Minsk and Moscow. In this video, we'll examine what triggered the alert, what the Belarusian and Russian forces are doing right now, and how this could shape Europe's next security crisis. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the early weeks of October 2025, intelligence reports from NATO's Allied Command operations indicated that Belarus had shifted several mechanized brigades from training zones back to operational readiness near the western borders. Satellite imagery showed armored columns moving through Grodno and Brest, with heavy equipment transporters carrying Iskander missile systems. At the same time, the Belarusian Ministry of Defense announced a combat readiness inspection, a term that historically signals preparation for either an external show of force or a deterrence posture. The timing was alarming. Zapad 2025 had just concluded 2 weeks earlier, and yet Belarusian troops had not demobilized. Instead, they appeared to be digging in. The Zapad exercises, meaning west, in Russian have always been a point of contention. They're massive joint drills between Russia and Belarus, designed to test their capability to fight a large-scale conflict with a NATO adversary. In 2025, the scale was unprecedented. Over 250 0 troops reportedly participated across multiple regions, from Kaliningrad to Belarus's western frontier. While Minsk insisted that the exercise was purely defensive, many Western analysts noted the inclusion of long-range missile drills, electronic warfare units, and rapid deployment tests, all designed for offensive scenarios. Following the conclusion of Zapad 2025, NATO's intelligence units in the Baltic region observed an unusual pattern. Russian support units and Belarusian battalions didn't return to barracks. Instead, they remained positioned along the Suwalki Gap, the narrow corridor between Poland and Lithuania that connects NATO's Baltic States to the rest of Europe. That corridor, only about 65 kilometers wide, is considered one of the most strategically vulnerable points in the alliance. If Russia and Belarus were ever to cut it off, NATO's Baltic members could be isolated. By mid-October, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Europe, Sassur, reportedly convened multiple security briefings. The focus was on assessing whether Belarus's movements were a continuation of Zapad or preparation for something more. A sudden surge in military flights, including Il-76 transport aircraft and electronic warfare planes, added to the suspicion. In response, Poland and Lithuania raised their own alert levels, moving air defense batteries closer to the frontier and increasing reconnaissance flights. Inside Belarus, the government of Alexander Lukashenko emphasized that the readiness inspection was a preventive measure, due to what it described as increased NATO activity along the border. But Western analysts viewed this as classic counter-narrative positioning, framing defensive posturing as provoked behavior. Russian state media simultaneously amplified messaging about NATO's provocations and defensive cooperation under the Union State Treaty. For many observers, it was a familiar pattern reminiscent of pre-invasion signaling from early 2022 before Russia's move on Ukraine. Strategically, Zapad 2025 and the subsequent alert showed how tightly integrated the Belarusian military has become with Russian command structures. Most of Belarus's advanced radar systems and missile units are now linked to Russia's integrated air defense network. The presence of Russian military advisors and joint command posts inside Belarus suggests that any large-scale mobilization cannot be separated from Moscow's planning. This makes Belarus both a partner and a proxy capable of operating independently on paper, but deeply influenced by the Kremlin's objectives. By the third week of October, open-source intelligence OSINT imagery showed new trench lines, fortifications, and mobile command centers appearing near Lunenets and Baranovichi. The movement of S-400 air defense systems closer to the Polish border was especially notable. Analysts believe this redeployment effectively extends Russia's air denial zone westward by at least 100 kilometers. Meanwhile, NATO's AWACS aircraft have been flying continuous patrols from bases in Germany and Estonia, monitoring electronic signatures and communications between Minsk and Moscow. Diplomatically, tensions escalated as NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg issued a statement urging transparency and restraint. The European Union echoed concerns, warning that continued military buildup could destabilize the region. In Washington, Pentagon officials briefed Congress on the situation, highlighting the risk that Zapad-2025 could serve as a cover for force positioning, a tactic used before previous operations in Ukraine. Belarus, however, denied any offensive intent, stating that its military actions were purely territorial defense preparedness. Behind the scenes, several military analysts have pointed out a shift in Belarus's internal command philosophy. Since 2023, the Belarusian armed forces have increasingly adopted Russian digital command and control systems, enabling faster integration with Russian units in wartime conditions. This means that in the event of conflict, Russian commanders could theoretically issue operational directives directly to Belarusian brigades without full political approval from Minsk. That reality blurs the line between ally and extension. At the NATO level, contingency planning has intensified. The alliance has begun running its own counter-exercises, simulating hybrid attacks, drone incursions, and cyber operations originating from Belarusian territory. Poland has fortified its eastern defences, while Lithuania has increased cooperation with the US and Germany for rapid reinforcement. Meanwhile, Finland, now a full NATO member, has also raised troop readiness along its southern sector in coordination with Baltic defence networks. The ripple effects of Belarus's readiness inspection have spread far beyond its borders. As October draws to a close, the situation remains tense but controlled. Neither side appears ready for direct confrontation, yet both are clearly preparing for worst-case scenarios. The Zapad-2025 fallout has once again revealed the fragile balance of deterrence in Eastern Europe. Belarus stands as both a frontline state and a testing ground, a mirror of Moscow's long-term strategy to maintain constant pressure on NATO's eastern flank without crossing the threshold of open war. For now, the world watches closely as Belarus remains on high alert. What began as an annual exercise has turned into another chapter of Europe's ongoing struggle for balance and security. If the lessons of recent years tell us anything, it's that what happens in Belarus never stays confined within its borders. The tension here is not just about military drills, it's about defining the boundaries of influence in a divided continent.